7 Sinister 7-11 stories revealed, spine-chilling horrors that will keep you awake tonight. Lisa took a deep breath as she approached the flickering, open, sign of her 7-Eleven. The fluorescent lights hummed rhythmically, promising warmth amidst the chilling silence of a neighborhood that seemed to darken with every passing minute. The night shifts were supposed to be routine, Slurpees, snacks, the usual late-night banter. But tonight felt different, unsettled. The air buzzed with an unspoken fear, a tension that curled around her shoulders like a heavy shawl. When the first customer of the night slipped through the door, Lisa noticed their eyes darting about, scanning the shadows like predators on the hunt. She forced a smile, but their gaze only lingered on her for a heartbeat before they rushed to the frozen foods. A cold shiver chased down her spine as she watched him, uneasy. These weren't her usual late-night regulars but new faces, filled with something sinister. As the hours dripped by, she glanced at the dim television in the corner as a news report flickered across the screen about recent disappearances, kids vanishing without a trace from convenience stores across the city. A lump formed in her throat as she showered herself with false reassurances about her children at home, Jake and Mia, fast asleep. Just then, a customer left the counter, abandoning a receipt. Curiosity tugged at her and she skimmed the slip of paper. Words scrawled in frantic loops sent ice through her veins. They're watching. The terror gripped her heart, and for a moment, the aisle spun. She brushed it off, exhaustion or her overactive imagination, but fear whispered in her ear. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The news kept grating on her nerves. Another customer came and stared at her, his eyes boring into her like the bright lights of the gas station next door. Whispered words filled the air, words she felt scratching at her chest. Was it her imagination or were they indeed talking about her? A bitter realization hit her like a slap. Her nights had been creeping towards a darkness she never wanted to acknowledge. Just as she settled those thoughts, the store lights flickered violently. Shadows danced against the wall, and for the first time, she hoped it was just faulty wiring. But as the fluorescent hum turned into an unsettling buzz, she couldn't shake the instinct screaming for her to run. Her phone buzzed violently on the counter, pulling her back into the moment. The message chillingly read, "You should have trusted your gut, Lisa." The air thickened with dread as she glanced at the back room, an uninviting abyss where emergency supplies sat, neglected. Each heartbeat pounded louder in her ears as she softened her breath. What was she standing against? The shadows were more than just echoes of nightly dread, they morphed into monstrous fears lurking just out of reach. The very essence of her neighborhood felt wrong. Just then, a rustle from the back room pierced the tense silence, startling her heart into a frantic rhythm. She gripped the counter, sweating, knowing a confrontation awaited her. Could she uncover the truth behind these nightmares, or would she slip deeper into the abyss? As dawn crept closer, shadows expanded, tightening around her. Would she manage to unveil the predator before it was too late? The stakes were higher, and her world twisted into pure horror. Time was pressing, she needed to act, or risk losing everything to something utterly horrifying. The rustling from the back room grew more insistent, an ominous whisper skating across the threshold of her sanity. Every muscle in Lisa's body tensed, locking her into place against the counter, breaths shallow and rapid. She chanced another glance toward the back. Darkness loomed, an oppressive weight that made the hairs on her neck stand. Then, the flickering overhead lights died entirely, plunging the store into pitch black. Panic gripped her. Heart hammering, she felt her way to the flashlight under the counter and switched it on, casting a beam that sliced through the encroaching blackness. Shadows shifted, revealing more than just aisles of snacks, they seemed alive. Lisa's heart raced as she thought of the ominous message on that abandoned receipt, the reminder that someone or something was indeed watching. Just as she steeled herself to investigate, the door swung open. A gust of cold air slithered inside, and the jingle of the bell was somehow more sinister than welcoming. Lisa's thoughts spiraled. Could it be more customers or something far worse? She aimed the flashlight toward the door, squinting. The figure that stepped in was cloaked in shadows, features obscured but moving with an unsettling grace. "Hello?" she called out, voice trembling. The figure paused, a shuddering silence settling over them both. Then, it stepped closer, and her instinct screamed for her to run. "Lisa." The voice slithered out a low, smooth tone mixed with a haunting familiarity. It sent icy fingers crawling down her spine. "Who are you?" she forced herself to ask, though her heart thudded loudly against her ribcage. "Someone you need to see." The figure moved deeper into the pale beam of her flashlight, revealing just enough of a face to recognize. It was Jake's friend, Danny, missing for weeks. His eyes were wild, darting as if they could see the curling shadows that dotted the aisle behind her. "What happened to you?" she whispered, the faint glimmer of hope fighting against terror. "Don't listen to them," he said urgently. "They are coming for you, too. You're not safe here." The lights buzzed back to life just then, casting an eerie glow, but his frantic energy made it feel like the world around them was collapsing. "What are you talking about?" she demanded, struggling to understand the frantic mess of his words. Before he could respond, a loud crash shook the stockroom door, confirming her worst fears. It sounded like someone or something was trying to get out. Danny's expression shifted from haste to sheer panic, a silent plea. "Run, Lisa." But where? The thought of leaving her children, of abandoning them for the uncertain safety outside, anchored her feet to the now horrifying ground. As the door banged again, a shudder of dread coursed through her. "I can't just now." His voice boomed, desperate. "Get out of here while you still can." The oppressive urgency in his tone prompted a gut instinct deeper than any rational thought. Lisa dashed toward the door, adrenaline fueling her legs, but the chilling realization that she couldn't leave Danny behind crept in. She turned back, but he was no longer active. He stood frozen, staring towards the approaching darkness of the stockroom. Her heart thudded painfully against her ribs as the door finally burst open. The shadows rushed in, fierce and hungry, eyes flickering like dying stars. They reached for Danny, their whispers clawing at her sanity. Lisa's body moved on instinct, heart pounding as she stood between them. "Don't fight back," she yelled, but the air felt heavy, oil-thick with dread. Should she battle these horrors in exchange for one fleeting moment of hope, or did running mean taking Danny's last opportunity with her? In that breathless moment, her fate twisted into a question of survival. The shadows lunged, and Lisa felt herself slipping into the abyss. What would happen next? Would she be consumed by darkness, or could she save herself and Danny? The clock was ticking, and the horrors were far from over. Lisa barely had time to register the weight of darkness before panic seized her entire being. The shadows that had erupted from the stockroom were hungry, swirling around her, the whispers rising in a chilling cacophony. It was as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling, and she stood at the epicenter. Her breath came in frantic bursts, each inhale tasting of cold, stale fear. "Danny!" she screamed, her eyes scanning the mass of shadows. But he was no longer a tangible figure. His essence seemed absorbed into the oncoming tide of darkness, floating away like mist under the first light of dawn. A soft chuckle echoed from the depths, not quite human, reverberating through the air like a twisted mockery of a laugh. With resolve hardening in her chest, she grabbed the flashlight tighter, its beam flickering as she pointed it at the advancing shadows. "Get away from him!" she shouted, though doubt gnawed at her insides. The shadows flickered back, hesitant, as if the light had teeth. But they were relentless, their whispers growing darker, more insistent. "Join us," they murmured in a chorus, beckoning her with chilling familiarity, each word striking deeper than any blow. She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block out the lure of the darkness. It resonated with something primal, a grotesque promise of safety within the embrace of oblivion. Her skin prickled, a lifetime of cautions flooding her mind. Don't listen, don't give in, but it was hard. So hard. The familiar scent of the store dulled in comparison to the intoxicating pull of the void. Lisa shook her head violently, forcing her eyes open. The flashlight breathed life back into the chaos. She could see the contours of the shadows, twisted faces forming and dissolving, layers of fear blending into auditory nightmares. "Danny!" She cried out again, her voice quaking with desperation. Suddenly, she wished fervently for the routine mundanity of her life, the children's laughter, the soft light of a summer day. The laughter stopped. A suffocating silence enveloped her as if the shadows were holding their breath. And then a voice, sweet and innocent, rang out from the depths of the store. Mommy! Lisa's heart dropped. The voice was undeniably that of her daughter, Chloe. Panic surged anew. "Chloe! Where are you?" Her body moved against its will, propelling her forward, toward the sound, the flashlight revealing glimmers of cheerfully colorful candies, now tainted with an unearthly air. "Help me, Mommy!" the voice called again, softer this time but imbued with stark terror. At the end of the aisle stood a flickering figure, the amber glow from the flashlight illuminating just enough to identify it as a child, hair flowing around her like cobwebs, limbs unnaturally still. The figure was swallowing her daughter's essence, the familiar outline melding into shadows, and still calling her name. "No!" Lisa's voice cracked. She surged forward, feeling the weight of the shadows shifting against her skin, curling around her ankles. They struggled to drag her down, but the love for Chloe burned like a torch. "Don't let them take you!" Lisa screamed, pouring every ounce of strength into breaking free. The shadows recoiled, but their grasp was still frighteningly tight. She fought against the tide, inching forward, the glow from her flashlight now a beacon of hope against the strangeness that threatened to swallow them. But just as Lisa grasped toward the apparition, a resonant roar echoed through the store, an otherworldly scream that rattled her very bones. "Mommy!" The shadows writhed, expanding outward as though they were a singular entity, coiling around her and tightening. The air turned ice-cold, and she could feel the weight of despair, the chill clawing deeper into her soul. In that moment, she knew she had to make a choice. Save her daughter or confront the very heart of the darkness grasping their lives. Before she could decide, a cold hand gripped her wrist, and the dark murmur of shadows swooped in unbearably close. A figure emerged, and Lisa gasped at the sight of it. What had Danny turned into? Would she face the true horror lurking in the depths? The clock hadn't just started ticking, it had struck midnight. The figure stepped closer, emerging from the shadows like a forgotten nightmare. Lisa squinted into the dim light, and her heart sank further into her stomach. Danny's face was unmistakable, but his eyes once warm and familiar glimmered with a dark hunger that sent chills racing down her spine. A grotesque grin stretched across his lips, twisted and unnatural. "Lisa," he drawled, his voice dripping with an otherworldly cadence. "You came to find me." Each word felt like ice brushing against her skin. Lisa reeled back, the flashlight faltering, the beam dancing erratically. "Danny, no," she murmured, shaking her head. "This couldn't be happening." Fear settled like lead in her gut as she took in the unsettling sight. His body, once sturdy and strong, was now partially engulfed in shadows that seemed to pulse like a living entity. "Help me, sweetheart," he continued, extending a hand toward her. "You're the only one who can save me." The shadows that clung to him shifted, as if breathing, reaching out with tendrils toward her. An icy shudder crossed her body. She wanted to believe him, to run into his arms, but the darkness whispering around him sang a different tune. The whispers grew louder, melding into a maddening symphony. "Join us, become one with the darkness." Lisa crossed her arms over her chest, fighting back the primal urge to give in. "You're not Danny." She screamed, feeling a surge of defiance. You're just a puppet for whatever this is. The grin faltered for a moment. No, I'm still me. We could be together. Suddenly, an echoing scream shattered the air, and her heart thundered painfully in her chest. Mommy! Chloe's voice sliced through the chaos, pulling Lisa's focus back to the flickering figure at the end of the aisle. Help me! Chloe! The call burst from her lips, and she knew she had to choose. But the shadows twisted tighter around her, their weight unbearable. Leave her, Lisa. Danny's tone shifted, becoming devoid of warmth. I am all you need. Bile rose in her throat. The stakes were impossible. She couldn't abandon Chloe, but she also couldn't acknowledge the thing claiming to be Danny. Lisa closed her eyes and drew in a shaky breath. I won't let you take anyone else. Not my daughter. Not him. With that, she lunged forward, the flashlight beam cutting through the dark and striking the shadows. Their shrieks pierced her ears as they recoiled, and for a split second, she saw the remnants of Danny anguished and trapped calling her name in desperation. Mommy, please. Help me. The shadows convulsed, rippling like a stormy sea. Lisa felt the grip on her wrist loosen just a little. She could break free. But was it enough? Could she fight two nightmares at once? Her heart raced as she pivoted, determination fueling her. She was not just going to fight for one life but for both against the deceptive darkness and the fraying boundaries of her reality. Every step sent ripples through the shadows, a beacon igniting the dimness trying to consume her. Chloe, I'm coming. Lisa shouted, rallying her strength as she pressed on, diving deeper into the aisle, praying the light would hold, but all at once, the shadows surged back, swirling ferociously, and a cold gust swept through the store as if the darkness exhaled. What are you willing to sacrifice? The voice echoed around her, and gasps filled the air. Shadows screamed and wrapped tighter, the darkness was alive, and all she could see was the flickering glow of her flashlight waning. In that moment, she realized she might not be strong enough to combat it all alone. The shadows writhed, and just as that thought anchored itself in her mind, someone began to emerge from the swirling haze. Could she face another dark revelation? What, or who, would it be this time? The figure that emerged from the shadows was cobwebbed with darkness, an affront to Lisa's senses. She felt her breath hitch in her throat as she recognized the familiar shape, but her mind screamed that this was impossible. The grotesque outline took form, defining features Chloe's face, but hollowed out, as if drained by the very shadows that sought to engulf them both. Mommy! The child cried, but it was not the innocent plea she remembered. It echoed distorted, layered with unearthly strains that clawed through her resolve. No! Stay back! Lisa shouted, her panic ripping through her soul. But, Mommy, I need your help. Chloe's voice broke, sounding more like a sinister echo than her daughter's true call. Shadows flickered around her, their whispers thickening in the air, demanding, beckoning. Enough! Lisa stepped forward, brandishing her flashlight as if it were a sword. The light flared, and Chloe jerked, shadows retreating momentarily like creatures stung. You're not her. You're just like him. The shadow-formed child giggled a cold, hollow laughter that filled the empty aisles, pushing Lisa a step back. Come, Mommy. You love me, don't you? You'll do anything for me, won't you? No. The word exploded from her, trailing a trembling resolve. But the darkness lunged again, wrapping tendrils around her ankles, drawing her down with an unyielding grip. Lisa's heart raced, the predicament tightening like a vice around her. She could feel despair threatening to sink her, the shadows whispering in a chorus of torment about twisted familial love and sacrifice. Help me, Lisa, a chorus murmured, echoing Danny's voice, weaving it seamlessly with those of her daughter, each guilt-laden note tightening the snare. Not like this. She cried, choking against the dark emotion clinging to her chest. Thinking of Chloe, truly lost in this horror of shadows, made her heart shatter. An idea pierced through the bleakness. "You want something?" she shouted into the clashing chaos. "Then take me." All movement paused, the darkness retreating slightly, as if perplexed. Shadows halted, their murmuring suddenly quieter, contemplating her offer. "Mommy." Chloe's form quivered, and for a heartbeat, something genuine flickered in blue eyes. "Don't, please don't, I can't leave you to this." Lisa replied, her voice hoarse yet fierce. "You mean everything to me. I wouldn't just abandon you." The shadows stirred violently, roiling like a storm. "What is a mother's love worth? What will you sacrifice?" Then the shadows pressed down harder than ever, their fingers like icy vice grips cutting into her skin. Lisa gritted her teeth, refusing to let go. "You want a sacrifice? Fine. Just let her go." There was an exhale, a rush of icy air swirling around her. The shadows bent and contorted, the darkness screaming, an inhuman choir erupting in fury. The atmosphere thickened, obscuring her view of the child she sought to save. The flickering beam of her flashlight glinted off something dark deeper within the shadows, an outline that shifted and undulated, a promise or a threat, she couldn't tell. "Mommy, Chloe?" The darkness became deafening, swirling into a cyclone. And like a distant memory, every ounce of light vanished, swallowed whole, plunging Lisa into a black void where no sound remained. As the darkness tightened around her, her heart raced with desperation. Had she been wrong to think she could barter with evil? What price was too high? What would the shadows demand next? In the depths of the fear, a new sound emerged, a soft weeping echoing from every corner, growing louder, drowning the chaos. What was lost this time? How much more could she lose before it ended? Lisa felt the weight of the darkness smother her, wrapping around her like a thick shroud. It was claustrophobic, suffocating, and her lungs burned as she struggled to breathe. The weeping intensified, now a cacophony of sorrow, each sob piercing through the silent void like a knife. "Chloe!" she screamed, her voice tearing through the stillness. It echoed back to her, distorted and hollow, as if the shadows were mocking her pain. Suddenly, a flicker of light pierced the enveloping blackness. It was weak, almost drowned out, but familiar. Hope sprouted in her chest, and she stumbled toward it, heart pounding like a drum within her ears. "Mommy." The voice was closer, more defined now, but still layered with a frantic desperation. The shadows recoiled slightly, allowing the faintest hint of a figure to appear within the haze. "Chloe." "I'm here," Lisa said, her voice trembling. She pushed forward, fighting against the oppressive darkness, drawn by the sound of her daughter. But as she approached, the figure twisted and morphed, shifting from Chloe's shape into an outline of something far more grotesque. A twisted face, hollow and twisted like the echoes of the whispers swirling around her. "Mommy, will you save me?" the figure asked, but it wasn't Chloe. There was no warmth, no love, only a chilling imitation that sent shivers crawling up her spine. "Please no," Lisa screamed, recoiling from the apparition. "You're not my daughter." The shadows surged with venomous energy, slithering toward her, pulling at her skin, mocking her every instinct to flee. "Then what is she to you?" the distorted voice of the shadows taunted. "What would you sacrifice to see her again?" With each word, tendrils tightened. Lisa's heartbeat thundered in her ears, each pulse a reminder of her vulnerability. Her mind raced. Could she resist? Was it a trick? She closed her eyes and thought of Chloe, her laughter, her hugs, the joy she brought into their lives. "No. I won't give in." As if challenging her resolve, the shadows erupted around her, a torrent of despair and longing. "We can give you what you desire, Lisa. Vulnerability for truth. Sacrifice for restoration." Above the oppressive whispers, a new sound emerged, one she hadn't felt in years. The laughter of a child, innocent and bright, spiraling around her like a bright thread in the encompassing darkness. "Mommy, you can't leave me, you promised." She opened her eyes wide. The flicker of light was stronger now. It showed her more than just the distorted figure. To her left, behind the edges of the swirling shadows, shapes danced around, a glimpse of what could be real. Or was it another deception meant to entice her further into darkness? "Chloe!" She cried out again, her voice hoarse and desperate. She reached out, her hand breaking through the shadows, feeling something cold and soft, a connection. But just as quickly as it had kindled, the light flickered again. The shadows screamed, their monstrous faces shifting like a dark tide, and once more, she was ripped from that moment of potential. Bodies twisted and melded into one another, indistinguishable, threatening to ensnare her fully. Sacrifice. The whispers clawed at her thoughts. What price for your love? Lisa squinted into the dark, trying to focus on anything tangible. I will not trade you, Chloe. She shouted defiantly, though uncertainty washed over her with every second that passed. The blackness swelled threateningly, a writhing mass of anger and anguish. Something sharp brushed against her throat, a hidden reminder of the darkness breathing over her shoulder. Symphonies of anguish crescendoed, echoing endless torment. Then what is your choice? With her sanity teetering, dread gripped her heart. The shadows rippled and formed vague shapes, beckoning her, luring her deeper into despair. The laughter morphed into a scream, a tentative choir caught in an eternal loop of grief, fading and returning there, just outside the dark veil, something shimmered, a doorway, an escape, or the depths of a greater horror. What awaits you, Lisa? The darkness whispered, the final taunt of uncertainty lingering like a ghost. What would she find on the other side? As tendrils closed in, she realized she was at the brink. Would she take the plunge into the unknown or be forever lost in the shadows? With one final surge of determination, Lisa lunged toward the flicker of light. It felt like diving into a freezing river, but she had to know. As her fingers clawed through the darkness, the shadows shrieked, voices rising together in chaotic anger, echoing her fear. The instant her hand broke through, a wave of warmth washed over her, suffocating the cold dread that clung to her skin. The light was blinding, illuminating a narrow passage that felt impossibly inviting, as if reality had suddenly shifted. Chloe! She shouted again, panic fusing with hope, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Ahead, a scene emerged, vivid and haunting. It was their living room wrapped in evening light, the familiar scent of cinnamon wafted through the air. Chloe sat curled up on the couch, her golden curls glowing like a halo. Mommy, you're back. Chloe beamed, her innocence piercing through the dread. But something unsettled Lisa. The laughter that had once filled the room felt off. No, no. This isn't right. Lisa staggered backward, the warm pull of the room turning bitter. Why don't you come join us? A voice whispered from the shadows again, a smooth coo that filled her with dread. It dripped with honey but tasted of bile. You'd be safe here, forever separated from the pain, from the darkness. The room began warping, the edges fading like smoke. Chloe's face twisted for a heartbeat, her cheeks sinking in, smile morphing into a rictus grin that chilled Lisa to her core. No! Lisa screamed, pushing herself away from the dark doorway. You're not her. The shadows roared in response, slinking back, weaving intricate patterns that seemed almost alive. Desperation filled her as she stumbled, feeling the cold embrace of darkness tighten around her. As if in synchronization, the figures blurred, the weeping and laughter harmonizing into a single, piercing cry. The twisted shapes formed once more, sprawling against the walls of the living room, ready to consume her. What do you want? Lisa gasped, her back pressing against an unseen barrier. Fear coursed through her, a familiar enemy she had always fought but never truly understood. The darkness hissed. Everything we want, everything. Your love, your choices, your fears. Let go of the uncertainty. Embrace the sacrifice. For a moment, Lisa felt herself swaying between choices. Did she dare to let go? Did she dare to step back into that horrific illusion for the sake of her daughter? But then she thought of Chloe's laughter, pure, untarnished, echoing as a distant memory. No! She shouted again, summoning the last flicker of her resolve. I'd rather face the unknown than lose who she is to you. With that declaration, the warmth of the flicker flared up, pushing the shadows back, a desperate but palpable light. The darkness convulsed violently, hissing incoherent rage. Tendrils clawed at her, desperate to reclaim their prize, but Lisa felt the tension break in her favor. The corridor of light widened, revealing glimmers of color and hope. It beckoned her forward, a lifeline in the chaos. Steps surged beneath her feet, she ran deeper into the shifting glow, her heart racing wildly. Yet as she sprinted, whispers clawed at her mind. You think you can escape? What if you find something worse? What if we're only just beginning? She skidded to a stop, breath caught in her throat. What if this light was deceiving? What if something awaited her in that brilliance worse than the shadows? Trapped on the edge of light and dark, Lisa stood paralyzed, one decision separating her from salvation or despair. As the phantoms writhed behind her, shadows clawing back toward her, one question resonated deeply: can you trust the light? In that crucial moment, dread gripped her. Would she plunge into the unknown or risk losing herself forever? The abyss loomed before her, and behind her, the whispers reached a fevered crescendo. Lisa's heart hammered in her chest as she weighed the decision before her. The shadows behind her twisted, coiling like vipers, hungry and insistent. They whispered promises that curled around her mind, tangling with the very fibers of her being. Join us, they hissed, their voices honeyed and false. It's easier, she forced herself to breathe, feeling lightheaded. The glow ahead pulsed, a beacon in the nightmarish haze. But could it truly offer safety, or was it another trap? Was it simply the lesser of two evils? Just as the whispering shadows threatened to drown her resolve, she took a step toward the light. It shimmered as if it were alive, welcoming her, vibrating with energy. Yet doubt still clawed at her. What if she was wrong? Could she bear the weight of a second wrong choice? In a moment of determination, Lisa steeled herself and made a dash toward the light, diving into it like a swimmer breaking the surface of a dark sea. A scream tore from her throat as the brightness enveloped her, the cold tendrils of the shadows reaching out but halting just before her. With a disorienting flash, she found herself standing in a stark white void. The brightness was blinding, but it didn't hurt. Lisa blinked, adjusting to this new world, her heart still racing. Mommy? Chloe's voice floated from the distance. Chloe! Lisa cried, looking frantically around. Yet the sound echoed in an eerie silence. There were no walls, no furniture, just a vast abyss of sterile light. Chloe! She shouted again, desperation creeping back into her voice. But as the echo faded, dread seeped in. What was this place? Was it truly a sanctuary, or had she merely traded one nightmare for another? Then, a form materialized before her, a flicker that expanded into a shadowy figure. It twisted in the air, and Lisa felt her throat tighten. Welcome, it elongated, its voice like the scraping of nails against glass. You've chosen the light. But understand, the edges of the light began to quiver, flickering like a flamed wick fighting against the wind. The figure loomed closer, its features indistinct but undeniably sinister. We're not finished with you yet. There are layers to this light you have yet to discover. Shut up! She shouted, her voice trembling. Where's Chloe? What have you done with her? The figure laughed, a sound that seemed to crawl underneath her skin, scratching at her sanity. She's safe, for now. But there's a price to pay for your escape. In this realm, we require balance. Balance? Lisa felt her head spinning. What do you want from me? The shadow stretched, its form twisting unnaturally. Lost souls, dear Lisa. Each decision you make, every time you turn from despair, we reclaim a piece of you. It's only fair. No. She yelled, stepping back. I won't give anything to you. The shadow grinned, an ominous twist. Then you risk losing more. The longer you stay, the more of yourself you surrender, willingly or not. With every word, Lisa felt a chilling wave wash over her. The brightness around her began to pulse, the light no longer a sanctuary but a prison, wrapping around her like an icy shroud. Chloe. She called again, panic rising within her like bile. What choice did she have? Each moment that passed felt heavy with dread. Was the darkness behind her ever truly gone, only to be replaced by this terrifying uncertainty? As the light began to fade, shadows at the edges flickered back to life, stretching toward her with an eagerness that sent terror slamming through her spine. And then she realized, she had to act, and soon. No more games. She shouted defiantly into the void, her spirit igniting in response. I'll find her, no matter the cost. But just as her words echoed into silence, a chilling thought struck her. What if finding Chloe meant embracing the darkness she had fought so hard to escape? The shadows laughed, a cacophony that resonated through the empty space. Then let us show you, dear Lisa, what true despair looks like, and with that, an unseen force pulled her away from the light, back toward the chilling abyss. The pull of the shadows was relentless, dragging Lisa away from the light she had fought so hard to reach. Panic surged within her, and the cold dread that crawled under her skin ignited anew. She strained against the unseen force, fists clenched, her breath quickening with each passing second. I want to let you take me. She cried, but the words were little more than a whisper drowned in the growing cacophony of laughter. As she neared the darkness, the landscape began to shift. The void around her twisted, coiling into shapes that felt unsettlingly familiar. Fragments of memories emerged in the haze, fleeting images of her life before engulfed in chaos. Chloe South laughter at the park, the two of them sipping milkshakes, flickers of warmth among the shadows. The contrast shattered her spirit, it reminded her of what was at stake. Suddenly, the laughter morphed into guttural snippets of whispers, each one drowning her in sorrow, promises of despair weaving through her thoughts. Let us show you, they intoned. What do you truly want? Power? Revenge? Lisa shook her head violently. No. I just want my daughter. The tugging grew stronger and, in an act of sheer desperation, she grasped at the ground beneath her. The surface felt slick and burning, like 1,000 fingertips pulling at her soul. She screamed, clawing at the darkness, her nails scraping against its texture until splinters of pain shot through her. Stay with us, the shadows begged, their voices melding into a chorus. You can have her, just let go of your light. No. She roared back, fighting against their beckoning arms. The last remnants of that blinding light still pulsed behind her like a dying star, but for how long? In that moment of chaos, Lisa felt the darkness shift. The shadows pulsed, the air thickening like molasses. Then abruptly, everything stilled. As if the world held its breath, she found herself suspended in a quiet that was almost peaceful. Before her, the outline of a door materialized, faint but undeniably present, made of dark wood, worn with age, covered in peculiar symbols that seemed to dance in the shadowy light. Step through, Lisa, a voice whispered, as smooth as silk. You'll find whatever you desire on the other side. Something primal simmered within her. Could this be a way out? Or just another trap? Her heart raced, teetering on the edge of instinctual fear and the fleeting glimmer of hope. Don't be a fool, a different shadow hissed, coiling around the door like smoke. Crossing that threshold means a price, a heavier one. Enough! Lisa yelled, her resolve hardening. Ignoring both temptation and threat, she darted toward the door, ignoring the shadows surging to intercept her. Hand outstretched, she felt warmth radiating from the smooth doorknob. But as her fingers brushed against it, a tumultuous wave of memories surged within her, a flash of every heart-wrenching choice she had made since the beginning. Every time she had chosen light over dark echoed. Each loss, every sorrow, each flicker of joy threatened to consume her. In that moment, she realized the sacrifice she'd have to face. With one last push, Lisa twisted the knob and threw the door open wide. A blinding void rushed to greet her, the brightness swallowing everything in a heartbeat. She stepped through, committing herself fully, heart pounding with reckless abandon, but as she stumbled forward, she gasped. It wasn't the realm of light she expected. It was an extension of the void, shadows stretching endlessly in every direction. And in the near distance, a silhouette took shape, a figure she recognized all too well. "Mommy?" Chloe's voice trembled in the distance, soft but full of dread. The figure shifted, revealing not just Chloe but another shadow beside her, lurking like a predator. As Lisa marched deeper, each step filled with dread, she knew the truth awaited. What lay ahead was far worse than darkness. It was the revelation of her own choices playing out before her, choices that had led her to this very moment. A sickening fear knotted in her stomach. Could her love for Chloe survive the horrors that awaited them? And then, a chilling realization struck. To save her daughter, Lisa might have to embrace the very darkness she sought to escape. "Mommy, please." Chloe's cry pierced the shadowy landscape. Time was running out. Which way would Lisa go? Into the shadows, towards her daughter, or back to the treacherous void behind her? The decision loomed, heavy and suffocating, as the echo of laughter danced in the dark. Lisa took a moment, her heart racing, every cell in her body urging her to act. The figure ahead flickered like a candle in the wind, and desperation clawed at her throat. "Chloe!" she called, voice trembling, but the shadows morphed around her daughter, twisting familiarly, enticingly. She forced herself to breathe. "I'm here!" Lisa yelled as she sprinted toward the silhouette. "I'm coming!" Her feet propelled her forward, past the cold tendrils that sought to ensnare her once more. The shape of Chloe, who was slowly revealing herself, turned against the stage of the abyss. As Lisa rushed closer, she felt the distortions of another presence lurking, eager like a coiled serpent ready to spring. "Mommy!" Chloe cried again, this time fear lacing her tone. "Don't worry. I'll save you." The words tumbled uncontrollably from Lisa's lips, filled with determination burning deep within her. She pushed through the darkness, every step resonating with love and the raw fear of losing everything she held dear. "Join us, Lisa, accept what has happened." A familiar whisper threaded through the shadows, echoing all around her. "You know the truth, you have choices to make." She shook her head fiercely. "No." She wouldn't listen. Just then, Chloe's form was fully illuminated, but it revealed something deeply chilling. The tender smile, the joy that sparked within her daughter, was shadowed by fear, her eyes wide and haunted. "Mommy, they're keeping me here." The sinister figure beside Chloe snapped forward, dark wisps slithering around it, and with its eyes glowing malevolently, it attempted to coax her. "Lisa, the shadows protect her. Trust us, and everything you desire will be yours." "Shut up!" Lisa shouted with unwavering resolve, raising her hand, her flashlight flickering back to life. "I won't let you take her. You're nothing but empty promises. Empathy for shadows can be your demise," the figure hissed, propelling itself to loom closer as the darkness began to pulse around. "No." Lisa stepped forward, each pulse of the darkness a reminder of the threat. "Chloe, I'll find you." Lisa turned sharply, gathering every remaining ounce of strength. Then she felt a surge of warmth, a flicker of the light she had fought for, flooding her mind. "You've taken enough." It wouldn't be the light she surrendered, she would take it with her. The shadows recoiled as if burned, the pained hisses filling her ears like daggers. "Stay. Don't leave the darkness." But their calls fell on deaf ears as she charged toward Chloe, taking hold of her daughter's hand. "No one will take you," she cried as the darkness swirled chaotically around them, desperate to claim one last piece of their souls. "Mommy, please," Chloe begged, seeing the fear that ignited in her mother's eyes. I'm here. Lisa squeezed her daughter's hand, channeling every ounce of maternal ferocity into that grip. One final step. They fled together into the blinding light that enveloped them, trading despair for hope. The shadows lashed out, screams erupting as the warmth penetrated their darkness. Suddenly they burst free from the terrors, emerging into the comforting embrace of daylight. Lisa stumbled onto the pavement outside the 7-Eleven, breathless with relief. Oh my God! Tears streamed from her eyes as she looked down at Chloe, who stood there looking very much alive, her expression brightening. Mommy! She beamed, rushing into Lisa's arms. Lisa held her tightly, heart racing with the raw realization that they had survived, that they had escaped the clutches of chaos. I thought I lost you. I knew you would come, Chloe whispered, the warmth of her child igniting joy in Lisa's chest. The echoes of shadows faded behind them, a haunting echo now growing dim. In that moment, Lisa promised herself that the darkness would never again threaten her family. With the dawn breaking above them, they walked together toward warmth, toward love, and away from nightmares long past. Let us go home, Lisa whispered, squeezing Chloe's small hand, no longer afraid. Overhead, sunlight spilled through the trees, and the horrors of the 7-Eleven would fade into nothing but distant memories, a tale she would carry but would never face again. This was a new beginning. And now, if you loved this story, don't wait to subscribe immediately to the channel, or you might miss the next exclusive tales we'll unveil. Smash that like button now, it feeds the algorithm and keeps this channel alive. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this ending. Your opinions mean everything to us, and don't forget to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support us now more than ever. This is the moment to show your love for stories that ignite fear and hope.